Alrighty, guys. If you don't, I am James Carter. If y'all don't know me, I'm surprised. But one of the things that my crazy demo tonight is kind of some tools that will just make your life a little bit easier as a pin turner. One of them is a gluing insertion tool. I'm going to make it two different ways, so you can depend on how you want to look at your how you want to use it on your setup. But the first thing I'm going to ask is how many of us have bought a bag of pin blanks? The random bet, you said don't ever do it. They're worthless most of the time. If you buy them, they're like 50 random pin blanks in a bag. Usually 5 are worth what you paid for the bag. And then of the rest 45, 20 are fair. They're good blanks. And then the rest are filler blanks. And you'll spend your entire life trying to figure out what are you going to do with these garbage blanks of garbage pin blanks. And that's where I started. The first time I made one of these was kind of as a mistake. I thought it was Coca-Cola, it was Babinga, and I was making one of my laying tools for stitchers. And unfortunately, Babinga you can't is not Coca-Cola. That's just the best way to put it. So when I realized I couldn't use it, and I played with it for a bit, and I forgot to bring my examples, so I'm going to have to just wing this on this part. But basically, the next time I made a pin, I used that to I'd been using a pair of scissors to hold the brass as I was putting it in, and then I was like, hey, I got this little wooden thing. Let's try this. It's so much easier. And I had seen gluing insertion tools for sale for like $20, and I was like, that's not. Not something I needed to buy. So I just started using that. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a gluing insertion tool. And my door prize for the day, I will give slightly used. This is brand new, but it will be slightly used. I wanted about 9/16 of an inch, which is about right there. All right. Now this is a reach jaw. It has a 1/2 inch spacing. 9/16 cut will give me right about perfect for what I want. And so we're going to turn this guy. And this is the way I use mine most of the time. But like I said, I'll show you. There'll be a second one I make here in a moment. But the first thing we're going to do is round this guy out. And this is just standard 1-inch skew, just doing a peeling cut. And just so I can make sure that I don't mess in too far that way. Give myself a relief cut there. And here's where my safety minute comes in. If you're checking smoothness of a bolt like that, do watch to make sure that your thumb doesn't get hit there and you wind up with that burn on your finger. Okay? That's where that burn came from. I am currently doing massive spindle order, and I made that mistake. Now, I want about 1 inch, so this is a 1-inch skew. That's right there. And then I'm going to take this. This is a 1/2 inch reach jaw. And I have it set to 9/16 of an inch. And that's where we got there. Now, being that I don't have this supported, I am not going to do a peeling cut. I'll just cut that down. A little less stress on the wood. And now to make sure this is nice and clean. Woo! There's the first catch of the night. Usually, if y'all guys have seen me demo before, I mean, come on. All right. And the reason why I'm doing that is just so I have a nice clean shoulder when we rotate this around. Okay? So, that's done. Now, take this around. And I want to get this all the way to the top. Make sure it's nice and secure so that way it's a good even hold all the way around. And just because I'm a little less supported, it's just there for a little bit of support. All right, and so we're gonna come back in, plane off the rest of this. And so now I'm going to we're just going to do a basic taper. So if you want to give yourself a little bit of room, turn this off so we're not wasting space. Even your smallest pin it's about a 6 millimeter. The mandrel's a little under 6 millimeters, so I'm going to go to 5. This thing has both metric and standard on it, so it's kind of nice. Tighten. Good. Oh, yay. All right, that'll work. There we are. Now, I basically want to take that and go down to there just in kind of a nice even taper. So, yeah, I sharpened this before I came up here. I made sure it was nice and sharp. Nice thing is, there's no sanding. It's done. Fantastic. And the one thing I do like about this guy, if you're doing slim lines or something like that, if you're doing this pin, I'm going to press this together later. But if you're doing a pin kit that has an unsanded mandrel, being that it's set in your lathe, I don't know how slow this thing goes in its high speed, about 600 RPMs. I literally just mash that sucker on and then just rub a sandpaper, flip it over, rub a sandpaper, and I'm done. Great way of just quickly sanding your tools. But now you've got a gluing insertion tool for this guy. And it's just a matter of press it on here, get it in your wood, your glue, you're ready to go. That's one way to make it. That's pretty nice and easy. And you can also use your lathe as a, thank you, sir, a sanding assisting without having to put them on the mandrel itself. All right, where's the lock? There it is. That's one way to do it. That's the way I make one of those about every 2 or 3 months because I can't find the 7 that are already somewhere in my shop. The wood to it. I don't use super glue anymore, but even when I did use super glue, I'd get it out and whatever, and then if it got too much glue on it, I just, once it dries, first put it in there, re-true it up. Pretty simple, straightforward on that to do. I use Gorilla Glue for three reasons. One, it's a lot cheaper than super glue or epoxy. Two, it fills the gaps on the inside of the mandrel. And three, since I've started using Gorilla Glue, I have not had it break a blank break apart off of the tube.
You should have told me that last time.
I'm sorry, I hadn't done this demo yet. Okay, I apologize. Yeah, well, I haven't had a wood break off my a pin mandrel or the bushing since I started doing that in that way. Yes, sir. I believe so. I don't do very many acrylics, but I believe I have used it on acrylics. And you always have to. I spray the tube with water, pour a copious amount of Gorilla Glue on it, and then work it one direction, flip it around, work it the other direction, and then wipe it off with I leave it about that far out. Take a paper towel and squish it in the rest of the way, wipe off the glue, and then set it somewhere to dry. And then I wait the next day. It's not fast. You've got to basically glue your blanks the day before, but I find it a far superior, and it's a whole lot cheaper. I mean, even the small bottle's about $7-8 I use the clear. I mean, even half that much CA is $12 or $15. I mean, if you get the big bottle, it's $22. And yeah, it's too much money.
So you use clear, does it foam still is white?
Yeah, it still foams up a little bit, but I bought the clear because yeah, they have a clear, and you still have to moisten the setup. All right. Now, if you want a different way of doing this, if you don't want to have pin jaws in your chuck, we're going to make one here that uses the Morse taper on your lathe. All right. And that's one reason why I bought this set, because there's a lot of fun things that this thing has. And the one thing I like about this Harbor Freight set, it's a whopping $8.99. You can't buy this anywhere else for less than $8.99. Usually about $15. I haven't found one of these somewhere. They are it's the best buy on the market for tools you use quite a bit. This measuring set from Harbor Freight, it will be this slightly used set. I bought it today. Will be in the drawing tonight. So basically, what I'm going to first do, I'm going to round this thing out, but I want to get my one measurement here because we're basically going to use this pin mandrel as a basis for its Morris 2 taper. That will work. Okay, and as I am, this is a little bit bigger. Yay, multiple tool rests. Hoop. There we are. Okay. All right. Oh, now I got to speed this back up. Okay. Because 600 RPMs is not going to be fast enough. Come on. Give me to 3,000. Okay.
Give us a tutorial on how to use that skew.
Skew chisel. What we're going to do is we're going to do a planing cut. Okay. Well, first. So what you want to do is you basically need to hold this with just the bottom point touching, slightly off the lathe. That's why I keep my fingers back here. You hear it rattling. You want to bring it up till you just see a shaving going. And you want to use the lower third of the skew. Now, this is absolutely, in my opinion, one of the best way of roughing out a pin. For that matter, turning a pin. You will get a far superior finish. Anytime you do that, I could sand. I usually start sanding at 180 And that's just because I make some irregularities in my skew work. It's not the tool, that's me. I am not as good at this tool as I would like to be yet. Steve Jones, is literally the Jedi master of this particular tool. Today released a video on YouTube. He turns a porch or a peak finial, one that goes up at the top of a peak of a house, in less than 5 minutes with this tool. With this tool and a little cove work with a half-inch spindle gouge. It is absolutely impressive. All right. Okay. There we are. Nice and I am reasonably smooth. Yeah, I'm not going to keep that, so let's get this junk out of here. That's good enough. All right, so, the first thing I want to do is I want to mark out what length of what the length I need this to be, and so I set this to the that's the length of the Morris 2 taper there, and then I'll grab both tools, turn that off. I get to use everything. Or at least everything that we have here. Setting up tools. It's about as exciting as sanding. That's good there. That's one end. That's one thing I like about this set as well, is you got 2 different tools to do the same job. Points. Yeah. Well, this one doesn't have any points on it, and that one's not too bad. The other one is a little bit dangerous, definitely for points. When you're using this tool, do grind 1 point off if you're trying to set the. I will demonstrate the bad part of that in a minute when we do with the last thing I'm going to make here. But got that done. All right. I'm going to change that a little bit. Now I can cut that off. That was the whole reason why I did that. Okay, so first things first, I want to set my top diameter. Done. Bottom diameter. Got that. Then I bring out my trusty little skew again, and we just connect the dots. All right, I'm going to turn that away just a little bit, just to give me a little bit of room. All right, now normally you don't want to turn uphill. This is spindle work. You want to go from highest to lowest, but every now and then, if it's a small degree of angle, it can be done. Okay. And just because I have a 1/2 inch, I get a little bit more control with this guy in that upper corner. So I'll taper that back in. Mesquite makes great firewood. Adds some wonderful flavoring to meat. Not so much by itself. All right. Ooh, that's smooth. Okay, so now I've got my taper done. So, basically, it's like I know I brought this somewhere. I'm going to part off the back end of it. I might normally try to do this with the skew, but I'm a little close to those teeth, and I don't want to mess my skew up. I like that tool. Nope, a little bit more. And being that this is a tool, it's not a fine piece of work that I've got to worry about how much of that I got to snap off. There. And then, to say we are woodworkers, you can be nice and cut that off. But now, I should have, if I did this right, a Morris 2 taper that'll fit. Well, that one's a little snugger than I'd like it to be. But it fits. Same thing. And so now you've got a tool that you can put in your Morris taper and hit the tool rest banjo handle because it sticks out 5 inches longer than you'd like it to. There we are. But same gizmo. I know this is the exciting part. Too high. Just make sure I'm in the realm. Almost. But that should do it. And I'll just part this guy off here with the skew. And there it is. Still in the system, still working. Nice thing is, again, you can use it to sand your pin mandrels if you want, or use it to help sand your tubes if you've got some that are not pre-scuffed. And so this one I can at least pull out pretty easily because it's wood. But there you go. You got a different way of doing it. You can use your Morris taper. Now, everybody gets to see the joys of the Easy Chuck. Anybody else own one of the Easy Woodchucks? You do? Do you like it, Debbie? It's these that just... This is the reason why I went with these for my school is because I don't have to worry about whether or not a student lines them up right. They are that quick. And they're also set up in a manner that you don't have to worry about numbering them. I own Bulldog Chucks and love them. They're great, but the jaws are numbered, and it's best if they're in the right order for numbering. All right. I am eventually one of these days when I start teaching classes, I want to do like a pin boot camp, and one of the things I'm going to have people make is what we're going to make next. And that is we're going to turn the lathe into a pin press. That's it. They are in there. There's no screws. It's that easy. Nope. Oh no. That's that little tool is all you need to get these suckers in there. So basically, I forgot, unfortunately, my examples. I had some. If you saw the pictures that Robert sent out, then you'll understand what I'm doing. So the first thing I'm going to do here, this is some oak, I believe. And I'm just going to rough out, not that much, a little faster. And this I think was an 1.5 inch piece. That'll work fine. 1 inch, 1 to 1.5, 2 inches. Anything in that realm will work just fine. You want usually a good hardwood. I want about a 1 inch piece right now. Yeah, I still prefer a planing cut. Okay. I am making what is going to basically be a press for putting your pins together. We're going to turn the lathe into a pin press. And that's why I'm like, there we are. Yep, nice and round. Okay. So, being that, where is the little gizmo at? Being that I already have this side set up still, I'm going to woo! Luckily, I'm rounding that later. That's fine. There we are. And then, unfortunately, the rest of it's just waste. I'll bring out a spindle gouge. And the one nice thing about doing these, at least, I've got a Morris 2 taper here, so I can size it off that. I just got myself kind of in the realm. And so, stop. Always stop your lathe before you move your tool rest. There we go. So we can get a little closer. I'm very sensitive to square corners right now. I'm doing some square pommels that I have hit myself on quite a bit lately. A lot of fun. All right, stop. Do. I don't know how far this thing goes out. We're going to find out. Mine's like 4 inches, so that's pretty good. All right, now I have a burnished line, so I know where I got to get, what I got to work past. Bring that back. And also, I don't need this big tool rest anymore. Thank you, Guild, for buying smaller tool rests. Appreciate it. Oh, hey, Mark. Haven't seen you in a while, sir. Exactly. Well, at least I know that that's my burnish line, so I can literally just go back, take that line all the way to the end here, and this will fit where I want it to. And then we're just going to come back, give yourself a little bit of a taper so it'll fit in this, fit on that side a little better. See if I got that right. I want this to butt up against the end of the unit, so this is pressing. I don't want it I want it a snug fit, but not too snug. I want it to be able to slide in and out fairly easily. So we're still a little tight. Because I'm not putting a long enough pin to knock this thing out on both ends, and so it doesn't need to, and it also doesn't need to be absolutely really snug. Okay, two things I'm going to do real quick. 1 inch skew. Always spin your project. Make sure your tool rest is not hitting the work. If you can sharpen that hardened steel, I'll go for it. Knock yourself out. I'm actually impressed that it didn't, cut more, or that it didn't stop. Okay, and this is where I'm at, so cut that square. Go back to 1/2 inch. Whee! Yow. Not everybody does this, but you can actually use a little parting tool kind of the same way. And when you're getting in really close like I was doing there, instead of being an idiot and trying to show that skill, you can do the same thing just a little bit slower with a standard parting tool. All right. Luckily, this is a tool, so I'm not actually overly concerned how pretty it looks. It doesn't need to be pretty, it just needs to be functional. That's perfect. Still spins so we can get it out. I'm not worried about that. All right. And I forgot to do something, and we get to do that now. Normally, I would have wanted to have put a tenon on first, and I forgot to do that. So I'm going to put a tenon here. And these are reach jaws, so they have a pretty good grab. So, remember the tool you need right now. Okay. So I own a spindle roughing gouge. I have several. Not bad. All right. And all I really want to do right now is just put a slight a slight dish on this, not much. All right. Slightly uneven surface. And in grain. So, ugh, that feels horrible. And there, one side done. Now, I have discovered that if you're doing slimlines, unfortunately, that real thin bar that you have to, the transmission that you have to punch in or press in, will dig into end grain. Oh, here they are. I was like, I know I brought some pennies. I was originally going to use a little metal disc you get out of knockouts when you would do like electrical boxes and stuff. I got a bunch of them from building my shop, so that was great. I left them all at home. So, when all else fails, a really cheap alternative is a penny. And if I had a Forstner bit, a penny is exactly 3/4 of an inch. And sadly, I know this because when I was a kid, my grandfather used to make a wooden arrowhead out of local Waiacon or lignum vitae, and he would polish up the old American Indian head pennies and would polish them up, mount them in the center of it. And I used to have to drill those holes in there, and he had a little 3/4 inch spade bit that I would do that on. And that was a lot of fun. That's where I got it. One way and we're going to use this to mark that out, but a good way if you're trying to figure out how to do this, throw yourself a random pencil line on there. Because it's a whole lot easier to see where center is versus that pencil line than trying to figure out where it is versus the center. And what I want to do is make a mark on the left side that matches the right. And I'm a little off, a little outside farther. But you also do not engage the far tip, because if you do, this thing will flip over and hit you in the hand and most likely cause a serious injury. Cut yourself pretty good from that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to move that out of the way. No, this won't fall off the end. There's a break. Don't freak out. Parting tool. Oh, little guy. He'll work best. Nice little mini parting tool. Came with I think it's a mini set that they sell from Pinnacle. Been a fun thing for me forever. And there you go. You've got one done. Quick, easy, and at least now you have a metal center that costs you a penny. I mean, you can't get better than that. I think that's pretty good, financial investment on that one. And then sadly, we got to do one more. Oh, and then there's. I actually do have a pin to put together, though, so you get to see it in action. All right, there we are. Okay, that's weird, but all right. Phew! A little low. That's my problem. See, I told you, multiple catches. You know, it's dinner and a show. Well, it's the show at least. I hope you had dinner. It's too low. Round it out on me. Multiple ways you can use a skew. Peeling cut. All right. You and you. All right. There we go. Oh, let's play with this tool. This is why I normally wear a face shield. Thought y'all guys might want to hear me talk tonight. I don't know. Maybe you don't, but you know. I normally wear a respirator, so much better than that guy. All right. Stop. And I got to pull you out of the way. Dang it. Not even close. Whammo. And that happens on a skew. I'll show you. This is a great way to explain what happened. The long point. I said you always want to. This is why you only want to cut with the bottom half of the tool, because if that long point gets engaged, it's unsupported, and it's that catch right there. That's what happened. And I'm going to cut uphill, which I shouldn't do. But this is a pretty boring taper. It's not a very drastic taper, so it should be all right. Stop. Burnish the wood so we know where we got to go. Right there. So now you want to cut, when you've done, this is kind of similar in box making. If you're ever trying to size a lid, you get that burnish line in. Now you want to cut it straight level, and then you want to taper it back down. So I'm going to taper down just a little bit here, and then start working the other direction. Wait for it to come to a stop. Move to rest. Still a little. It's not quite as clean as I'd like it to be. Unlock it, stupid. Come on. You locked it so you could get that undone. I'm very hard on myself. I'm sorry. I'm going to take just a very light skimming cut on the way up here. Shouldn't have to take off too much. Much better. Moves, spins freely, good to go. Happy with that. All right. So now we're going to put a tenon on this thing and flip it back around. What? I want it smooth enough that I can easily pull it out by hand. If it's stuck in there, I'm not cutting that tenon long enough that the knockout bar would pull it out. So it's not really a matter of it'll hang in there no matter what. It's enough. Yeah, I'm just pushing the pieces together. So it's not like I don't need it to be rowdy tight. I just need it to be, I just need it to stay in there I just need it to be able to stay in there without falling out. And that'll stand in there without falling out. So that's what I'm looking for. All right. We are round, we are square, we are good. All right. I'm going to be tasting oak for a week. So I guess it's better than the mahogany that I've been tasting, so that's fine. All right. The nice thing is, at least in this, if I ever mess it up, I can always come back, put it back in a chuck, true it back up, all is good. So, spindle roughing gouge. Careful. Right there. Like nice and smooth. All right, and then pull out the one tool I haven't used yet. This is a bowl gouge. Nice and smooth. That was a better cut. It's always a matter of grabbing the tool that really should do the cut right, not just whatever tool you have handy. All right. And then once again, I always do this. It's just a habit because, like I said, it's much easier to try to figure out where center is off that pencil line than it is to try to, there we are, than it is to try to guess it the other direction. Scoot back. All right. Nope, just slightly off.
If you want it 10 times more accurate, can you use a dime?
I guess. I just figured I'd just throw in my 2 cents worth, man. That's fine. Honestly, if you take the cost of the metal boxes I bought, this is cheaper than what that waste was costing me. You go a little deeper. It's perfect. It'll fit right in there. I just need it a little deeper so it sits flush. You can glue them in if you want. It doesn't matter. And yes, you can buy a pin press. You can buy a squeeze clamp, an F clamp. Any of those will work. You've got a heck of a lot of force here on this thing that you can use, and so it's just a matter of making one yourself. Not a difficult. And I actually put together some large pieces that are larger than the standard pin press will hold, and so being able to do that on my lathe was. I put some together the other day, and I was like, "Holy cow, that is so much nicer." and that'll work. I'll have to hold the pin in there when I put the pencil together. But in demonstration. Now this is the Stratus large pencil kit, or whatever you want to call it. It's got like a 2 mil lead on it, shop pencil kit in gunmetal. I happen to really like this kit. I give this as kind of a gift whenever I go to someone's, if I ever go meet a woodworker or something like that, or get wood from them. This is actually, this wood, it comes from New York. It was part of the Bronx Zoo, and they used it for, it was part of their benches. It's a fumed ash, but ash is a blonde wood. This is solid brown, and it was the fuming that's done that. It's all the way through. Doesn't matter how I cut it. I was given a piece of that when I went up to New York last year and visited one of the guys that's has a shop, has a lumber yard up there, because I always like to get local wood whenever I go on a trip, and he gave me that as kind of a fun piece to work with. You don't always need the pin. The penny. I just happen to like it if I'm doing something tiny. But be centered at least, so we're nice and. That's pretty easy. And this time I've made. This is the second one of these I've made. The first one I forgot to do this. Forgot to put on the pin clip, or the shirt clip, and couldn't get it apart easily. So I was like, well, never mind, I'll make them another one. I'll keep that one. So now I have a memory of that trip as well. All right. I know it's sitting here in front of me and I can't see it. There it is. Of course it is. It's like anything you ever do in woodworking. This is the tool you just put down you can never find. All right. Ta-da. Sorry. As my wife would say, I did a premature ta-da. Ta-da! All right. I'll pass this around so you can see it. I do want it back. That's not a gimme. All right. Now, the last thing I'm going to do tonight is kind of a funny thing, and it's something that I got inspired by Richard Raffin to do. How many guys here have little pieces of wood like this from all your pin kits that you've cut? What do you do with these things, right? What do you do with them? That's always the issue. You can make a finial out of that little thing? I'm like, that's a tiny freaking finial. I'm just saying. All right. Well, here, y'all guys can pass those around so you can take a better look at those if you want. Don't lose the penny on the one. It goes with it. All right. Somewhere in here I have another piece of wood. I know I brought another piece of wood. Oh well, Jatoba it is. What? Oh. All right. Okay. So, spindle roughing gouge. So basically, I'll show you at least what I did. You know, I'll do this. I didn't want to bore y'all with drilling, But basically, I've drilled a 1/8 inch hole through the little pieces that I've got here. What we're going to do is we're going to make a little jig to put this between centers, and we're going to make beads. This is a great way to get rid of, somewhere in my garage, of old shop stuff that I haven't unpacked yet, is a box of probably 50 plus little pieces of wood like this. And I've like, I'll do something with them someday. You know, it's that kind of wood hoarding thing that we all do as woodturners. We're wood hoarders as much as anything else. And so, whee! Fun. I need a tool that's a little bit more designed for cutting this kind of, there we go. So basically all I need is a point. Pretty simple, straightforward. You need a point. Yep. And then I think this is Australian burl. I'm not really sure, but it looks like Australian burl. It's expensive. I don't want to get rid of that, so why would I throw that away, even if it is a little piece that big? So this is one of the best ways to practice tool control. You've got a small piece of wood that you can do anything you want to with. And so if I'm looking to make, there we are. I can do anything I want to with this thing. I can, well, first thing I'm going to do is round it out. There we are. And the nice thing about being held this way, if it stops, you tighten it up a little bit. But it's also not going to come out of the lathe and blow at you in the face. If you're putting too much pressure on it, it's going to let you know. And that's the one nice thing about this is kind of like a safety center. It's not going to, you're not going to, even a bad catch is not going to cause you to have really rowdy damage to your wood. It's really just going to stop. That's all it's going to do. So it's a great way to understand, to learn how to use proper force in your turning and how much pressure your wood can take. Come on. And I am pulling, there we go, see? Little flat. There we go. Still a little round there. Out there. All right, I'm round enough. And I'm going to do kind of a little barbell design where I'm going to take and cut a half bead on both sides and a cove in the center. just saved me a nice rowdy catch. I'm going to tighten it up a little bit because the cove's a little bit more aggressive of a cut. And now you could sand that. I didn't bring any sandpaper with me, but anybody who does trade shows or craft shows or whatever, little wooden beads like this, you can get $5 a piece for them pretty easily, and it's made from nothing but scrap. And that's one design. Here, I'll stick a bigger piece on. What the heck? Why not? Necklace beads. Necklace bead or whatever. Pretty simple, straightforward, easy thing to make. Do 1/2-inch skew. Also, doesn't matter how good you are at drilling. Now on this one, these I drilled an 1/8-inch hole on it. You could go larger if you wanted, 1/4-inch. I happen to have a drill chuck that has a 1/8-inch drill bit for part of my production work that just stays on my lathe, and that's what I drilled. All right, you're gonna be mean to me. Now, if you wanted to get crazier, you probably could get an 1/8-inch screw, throw between the centers, clamp it down in something. There's definitely 1,000 different ways to do this. This is just something I came up with quickly when I was asked to do a demo. Because if there's one thing I know every pin turner has who's bought pin blanks, is a bunch of little small pieces of wood. We all have it. Phew, that's not cutting very nice. This nice figure in this. Yeah, I think this is some Australian burl too. I brought in some pretty wood tonight for some strange reason. All right, spindle gouge. I'm just going to do just kind of a wide oval on this one. The ones y'all saw in the pictures, I handed those to my wife, and she was like, "Thank you," and I was like, "I didn't really intend to give those to you, but that's fine." Now I know Axminster and some other people, they have a basic cone drive you could buy that would go in here, probably work a little bit better. But this is just the easy way of making something that you out of wood you have. I'm sure everybody has scrap. That's just the way we are. So it's just a matter of fast way of making something into making some fun things. Whee! A little skew for this. You just don't want to cut, do you? All right. There we go. One thing to understand about a skew chisel, you'll get a slightly better finish with the heel down, because you're putting a little bit more pressure into the wood, but then you'll also run a risk of more tear out and catches on that. If you do the heel down or the toe down like I'm doing right now, it puts more pressure into the end. Usually you can get a finish when you can't normally get one out of something else, but burls in general just don't like skews. So we'll go back to the spindle gouge. As much as you might ever like it, it's all about tool usage. Yep, that's sandable. There you go. Nice little bead. These are things that easy to make. We all have, I imagine most of us have more boxes of wood like this than we ever would realize. I just couldn't find, I found those just sitting on a tray that I keep in my wood stocks on. I could have cut that one in half and made 2 smaller beads out of it. You can do anything you want. Eggs, the little barbell. It's a great way to practice tool control. And to give you the ability to just work on your skills and also make something that you can give to family or friends, sell at craft shows fairly reasonably. When I used to do carving shows with my granddad, we had a guy that did ceramics, and he'd nickel and dime you to death on the little ceramic miniatures that were at the time like $1. And you just like, we'd like, hey, we are so sucked. He's like, no, I did pretty good. And it was like, yeah, well, what was the biggest thing you sold? $5. He just sold a bunch of small items. And so when you can do it, the little things like that, it's a great way to, put them in a bowl and just people come by and look at them and say, what this for? Just, paracord or something, anything, rope, leather. Great way to just make some fun little necklaces for people out of what you would normally, or what we should throw away as woodturners, but we never do. What's up? Earrings, yeah. See, I don't wear them, so my wife doesn't wear much jewelry, so it's for me. What these will become is she will put a chain through them and stick them on the end of a pair of scissors, so that way she knows which ones are hers when she goes to conventions. And that is honestly a serious thing. But I think that's it. That's everything I wanted to talk about tonight. Like I said, simple way, an easy tool to make. You don't need to buy it, and it'll help you get rid of any garbage pin blanks you got around that you just don't care about. A great way to use those, and doing them either way, either if you want to make it for it fits in your Morris taper, or if you've got either a drill chuck or a pin jaw on your 4-jaw chuck, great way to use, and then you can use them, and then if they ever get too gunky, stick them back in there, clean them back off, and use them again. I mean, I could say I could go back down to here without a problem. So I've got a lot of life in this one, and that one too. So it's a great tool. No reason to make something, or no reason to buy something you can make relatively easy, and it's going to do the job just as good, if not better. The pin press parts that'll go in the drawing for tonight. A great way to utilize the best press, the best vice press you've got in your shop, which is your lathe bed, and the beads, just something fun to help get rid of scrap that we all hang on to way too much. All right. I thank you for showing up tonight.